All right, Brooksy, my man. What's up? How we doing, man?
Doing
Episode
well.
22.
Episode 22, the first one that we
Yep.
actually have the game of baseball to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
So last time we met, you were actually on vacation. So how was vacation?
It was good. Yeah, it was in upstate New York. So it was some nice
There you go.
time away. And now coming back, and now I'm in Washington, D.C. now for a socially distant wedding this weekend.
There you go. I like the
So
swag.
this isn't my artwork. This is the artwork behind me of a hotel room.
So when you say upper New York or upstate New York, where were you in New York? Because
The Adirondack, so Lake George.
okay, there you go. There you go. That's nice up there. Like George,
It was really pleasant.
that's nice up there. I always get confused of, I'm from Western New York, but some people consider it kind of like Buffalo, Rochester, like upstate New York. So always curious. So
Yeah.
but it's normally like Albany and up, I would say. Like
Anything
like,
to some people, anything north of New York City is upstate New York.
right? So I was just kind of curious. But Brooksy, we got a full slate of stuff to talk about. Baseball is back in full swing, kind of, sort of, a little bit. We got a couple hiccups here and there. But it's been through the first week of baseball. A lot of exciting things. And one of the best things happened this week. I don't know if you call it the best. You probably call it the best thing considering the team that was involved. But Joe Kelly was issued an 8.
Joe Kelly faced it.
Joe Kelly was issued an 8-game suspension for throwing at Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman during the Houston Astros and Los Angeles Dodgers game. This is a pretty funny situation because leading into the season, I mean, we've talked about it countless amount of times. The Astros were caught cheating. Everyone hates the Astros now. They didn't apologize for it. No one kind of took credit for it, whatever. And here you have a guy. So the Astros cheated out the Dodgers in 2017 series. But here you have a guy who wasn't even on that team in 2017. And he throws, I think it was like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball over Alex Bregman's head. And then I can't remember what the actual sequence was, but I don't think he threw a fastball for a strike against Correa.
Yeah, it was all the curve.
Yeah, and he struck him out on a slider in the dirt. And he walks off the field, and obviously the meme is popular around the Twitter sphere now, with the upset look. But the bench is cleared, no fights, no punches were thrown or anything like that. But just to start, I mean, 8 games equal to 22 games in an actual regular season. Do you think that's a little harsh? What do you think about the situation?
I mean, I think sarcastically, if Joe Kelly didn't want to get suspended, he should have been involved in a huge multiplayer organizational cheating ring based on the precedent that was set by Manfred. So that's on Joe Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but in all seriousness, that's absurd. Going to a 13% of the season suspension for not making contact with a player even.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think, if anything, it's just Rob Manfred who's been inappropriately swinging his big hammer for the last year. And this is, one of the biggest instances of just blindness and tone deafness.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you take this side and, just the optics of it, where you have Joe Kelly getting suspended more than any player did on the Astros. That's just, mainly just a horrible look for Manfred. And it's if you're the Astros, you're seeing this stuff coming. And I will sort of give respect to Bregman and Correa. It wasn't either of them were oh, you threw at me. The thing that pissed off Correa was that he was Joe Kelly was sort of the nice swing bitch, that sort of thing, showing him up after the fact.
Dogging it.
Yeah. And so, but they weren't why are you throwing at me? Because, yeah, they get it. They know it's going to happen. The whole league hates them. So, I do respect, at least the players were not getting all pouty about it. But I feel 8 games is ridiculous. It could have just been a fine, and then we'll just completely write it off.
Yeah.
But something like that, it just makes it much more of a story. And if anything, expecting a big black eye on Manfred.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in a way that so I was watching a show or something earlier this week, and it was like whoever was on was the 95-mile-an-hour fastball at a head, that's a weapon. That's a weapon. So I understand that aspect, but the league knew this was coming. The league knew someone was going to come out and someone was going to. I mean, you saw it a little bit in spring training when Altuve got hit and a couple other people got hit, but you knew this was going to happen in the regular season. You knew someone was going to throw out the Astros. You knew someone was. I mean, they're deserving of it. First of all, so I think the fact that Manfred comes out and he drops an 8-game suspension, I think in a way he's just trying to send a message. All right, guys, this is enough. You got it out of your system, even though only one person got it out of their system.
Yeah.
Let's just stop this and move on. So it's so wild to see, but in a way, I'm so happy that it was Joe Kelly, because he's the one guy. There are a few guys around the league that could make it a spectacle, it happens.
The face that he had back was just instant meme. It was really funny.
It was awesome to see. I mean, he was on the Red Sox for a little bit, and I absolutely loved him when he was on the Sox. He's just got this I don't give a shit attitude. And it's so fun to watch. And then, the next day, I don't know if you saw it, but the next day, I think it was yesterday, he posted a photo on Instagram of him holding 3 babies.
I couldn't tell. Was that him or was that a fake account?
I thought it was him.
Because it wasn't verified. Because I saw that too, and I was like, oh my gosh, if that was actually him, that's incredible.
I thought it was him. But anyway, so this photo of Joe Kelly holding 3 babies. It's got Altuve, Correa, and Bregman. And he's I'm not apologizing. He comes out with the Conor McGregor speech. I'm apologizing to absolutely no one. It was the great, but that's Joe Kelly. That's savageness. Mm-hmm. And there's also been a couple things just kind of rolling around the internet to where, I mean, he probably was. I think he was actually throwing at them. But Joe Kelly is known for being wild. He's known for throwing the ball all over.
He had that video in the offseason where he showed himself throwing into a net in his house, and it went through his kitchen window. I saw somebody was saying oh, this is a set. He did that video months in advance to show that he's wild.
Yeah. He was just setting it up. He was waiting for it. And it's just wild, just kind of see that, and I'm glad it was Chuck Kelly. But 8-game suspension, that is way too much in my opinion. I would do 2 or 3 maybe at the most, but I'm trying to. This USA article says it is. Oh, this is not Joe's account. It's a fan page. He doesn't have any social media, so it wasn't Joe Kelly's account.
If only.
Confirmed.
Major of this league, if so.
Joe Kelly's the man, though. But I do want to talk about this Astros situation for a little bit, because this is just a sign of how lucky the Astros are this year. That there's no fans in the stadium, that there's not a horde of media reporters in their clubhouse every game after every game. Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman are currently hitting 174 this year. Can you imagine how shitty that would be to have reporters in your face and recorders in your face after every single game through the rest of the year?
Yeah, and just getting overstaged in a good way, or this isn't good, but for the Astros PR case by everything else that's happened since the news came out in January. I mean, I feel like they dodged that bullet big time, and I feel like if anything, I mean, maybe their numbers will come around, but bless you. But if anything, it just I feel like it's just indicative of the their chances just this year. And I mean, I hope that this black eye carries them through in their individual careers. The rest of it may be, but the fact that they don't have to deal with the media and all this, makes me fine with Joe Kelly maybe throwing a little inside balls.
Yeah. Do you think this will continue to happen? Like people will continue to throw at the Astros throughout the rest of the season after Kelly was issued this severe of a fine or this severe of a suspension?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think like that's what's deterring it. Like, I think that they would want to. Maybe if players individually feel wrong, I think I may feel differently after I see like the Yankees,
Yeah.
Astros series, but I can't really see much of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it was interesting that like because I don't think because the Yankees and the Astros aren't going to get to play each other until the playoffs. With the
I completely forgot about that. I wasn't thinking.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see the Astros and the Dodgers kind of face off throughout this year. I don't know how many more games they're supposed to play, but like, these two teams are the teams that have kind of gone head to head through this whole situation, like in the World Series and the postseason and stuff like that. So I hope the Astros and the Yankees somehow play each other in the playoffs. But who knows if the Astros are actually going to get to the playoffs now? They don't have Justin Verlander. They don't have their ace anymore. He's out with injury. All they got is good old quiet Zach Greinke. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of their season plays out, and just kind of imagine the backlash they're going to get with everything going on if they don't make the playoffs the year after all this stuff comes out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if they will. I mean, at this point, losing Verlander and then having your other guy, I mean, I guess that's on having your two best pitchers be like 37 and 38 years old.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm still not into like the 60-game season mindset because, like, oh, yeah, like they'll probably play sometime halfway through the season, the Yankees and the Astros, but completely forgetting that isn't the case. But, yeah, I feel like, especially with the precedent and that Manfred unfairly set, I think that's going to be like a ridiculous deterrent for any team that's like competing. Because if like there's a pitcher that's like, well, I could get fined a bunch and I can lose like over 20% of the season, I may hold off on that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, Joe Kelly loses that many games, but like I could always see like Joe Kelly isn't a major piece of the Dodgers bullpen, so I could always see like guys who are in the back end of teams' bullpens coming out and throwing at them. I can see that. Like maybe guys who like, don't like play a major role in a team's rotation or a bullpen or something like that and coming in, getting their due. But who knows how it's gonna play out. I just the punishment was too severe. The situation was awesome to see play out though. Like we're gonna see the meme the rest of the year into the playoffs. I kind of want to get a shirt of that meme. Like, Bo, where are you? Like, I'm gonna go talk to Bo, and we're gonna get that out of shirt. You mad, bro? Maybe that would be funny.
Yeah, I love how he handled it. The expression on his face is just. It's perfect.
But I mean, this wasn't the only major news of the week. The league has been dealing with their first like COVID outbreak. So the Marlins have had, I believe it's 17 players test positive for COVID. They've had a couple coaches test positive as well, and their season is on pause until Sunday. So this episode will probably come out after they get to start possibly playing the games again. But for the majority of this week, the Marlins haven't played a game because of the COVID outbreak. Do you think, Brooksy, this is a sign of the worst things to come with one team having to handle a COVID outbreak?
I think, with the sources saying that the outbreak started because players weren't following protocol and they're out in the club.
Yeah.
Then that doesn't raise red flags for the actual like health of the season. Yeah. That to me raises red flags of like, okay, well, how are we going to handle that with Marlins leadership and ownership and the players that did act out in that way? Because the thing that frustrates me the most about this is how they decided over a text group to play in a game knowing that they may have been exposed. And I think at this point, there's only been 2 cases in Philly, both of which are like not players, but on like coaching staff.
Yeah.
But like God forbid that like players start getting that, because then it just really starts that trickle down. And we've seen like the negative effects on it just in terms of like the scheduling and the logistics, because you have the Phillies and the Marlins, which who cares about the Marlins at this point, but the Phillies who haven't played, and when the time they play again will be a week.
Yeah.
In a 60-game season, that's ridiculous. And so that's like one way logistically is just like completely thrown everything off. But I think given how they've responded up to this point, where it seems to be primarily limited to just the Marlins, I think it's maybe just like, that could have been a lot worse. All right, everybody, we got to be better. But I think they got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, at first, when the news came out, I was real worried that, this is just the beginning. Like, all right, so teams are going to start, left and right teams are going to start dropping like flies. I mean, this really throws a big like twist in the season, because like the Marlins are going to affect so many other teams' schedules. Like just this week there's like about, I think, 5 or 6 teams that had to readjust their schedule because they weren't able to play the Marlins, or another team the Marlins were supposed to play couldn't play. Like the Phillies Yankees game was canceled earlier this week, and things like that. But like, I think that it was good to see, not good, but like it was a good measure to see how they handled things. It seems like they've got it somewhat under control, or have a plan in place to where they're able to handle it. And they've already started putting in like new rules for teams when they're on the road, or like new precautions when they're on the road, or, when they're at home. Like Jeff Hassan from ESPN came out with an article, I think it was yesterday or the day before. So you have to wear surgical masks now instead of cloth masks. You can't leave the hotel room when you're on the road. Teams have a mandatory compliance officer now, or just a couple of the things just from looking at this. But they're making a bunch of changes so that this doesn't happen again. Which is good to see. They're kind of adjusting their plan on the fly and making sure this doesn't happen with other teams.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we can look back on this and just be like, oh, well, that could have been a lot worse. I feel like this is just like a warning shot. Which is going to happen. At least it's the Marlins.
Right. So we'll see how this kind of affects teams down the road. But I think they have it somewhat under. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I would assume that the Marlins are going to end up having to play like a less amount of games than everyone else because of this whole outbreak. And maybe teams can use it as an example. Like, all right, guys, this happens to us, it's going to screw up the season. Like if we see multiple teams happening, it's going to be wild. On a different note, though, 19 hours ago, I don't know if you know who this guy is, Brooksy. But Pat Venditti, he's the guy. He's the ambidextrous guy where he can throw with both arms. He can pitch with both arms. He signed a minor league deal with the Marlins.
Well, that turns it around pretty well. That's sweet.
I've been following this guy since I was like in college, and because you've heard the quote, like, I'm amphibious. I can use my right.
Yeah.
Both hands. Okay. So there was a headline a couple years ago when Venditti was making his like a first appearance on the major league level and stuff like that, and someone used the amphibious in a headline rather than ambidextrous.
Like, yeah, you can swim in water and walk on land.
Yeah.
And throw with both hands.
And so whenever I like use that quote with people, everyone's like, it's ambidextrous, right? I'm like, you don't get joke.
I was like, right over the head.
I'm like, you don't get the joke. You don't know the quote. Some people catch it, though, and they'll laugh. But I saw his name when I was scrolling through Passan's timeline, and I was like, oh, yes, let's go. Because I didn't know he was still in the league. And it's funny to see him. Like, there's an old video on Twitter where he was pitching against one of the Yankees minor league teams. So he's on the mound, and he has his glove on his left hand, so he's pitching right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So the batter steps in the box, in the left-handed batter's box. So he switches his glove to his right hand, and they just go back and forth.
That was hilarious. Yeah, I remember.
The ump is like, all right, guys, pick a spot, stay there.
Stay there. I like that.
It was pretty funny to see. I saw his name, so I had to go on a little tangent there. But because of this whole Marlins thing, obviously, like we kind of said, the schedule is going to be a little messed up. We don't know how it's going to play out. Obviously, teams are going to have to figure something out. One of the solutions is playing doubleheaders. So the league has talked about, obviously the league knew they were going to have to play doubleheaders at some point this year. But before they were 9-inning games, and the owners and the union came to an agreement last night that they're going to reduce doubleheaders to 7 games starting in August. There are 7 innings, 7 innings starting in August. But this is only for this season. What do you think about that? Them switching to 7 innings instead of
9. I mean, I think it's one of the. I'm fine with making that the plan now, considering what's happened just with a COVID outbreak and having a season and having the logistics have to deviate from the original plan.
Yeah.
Because that beats what they were talking about earlier in the week, where if a team doesn't have 60 games, they're just going to count it based off of win percentage.
Yeah.
So that, to me, basing off of win percentage, you're not playing a full 60, that hurts the integrity more than I think the 7-inning doubleheaders do, because we've seen what COVID outbreaks do. And, what about rainouts and this and that? There's going to be a lot that has to happen to fit in a 60-game schedule. And I think a lot of ways to sort of alleviate that is just to give the 7-inning doubleheaders on those Sundays, because maybe that could even give players more rest. And I think the biggest piece to it, which I hope the players are able to get, is expanded rosters, which I feel like they would have to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you there. I think the one thing I saw yesterday is that they were hoping to do it in order to save bullpens and pitchers' arms and things like that, because the less innings you have to play, the less pitchers you have to use, especially on those doubleheader days where maybe a starter could go out and go 6 innings, then you only have to use one bullpen guy. You never really know, but it saves pitchers' arms in the long run, and I think it's a crucial move, and I think it's going to allow them to get more games in a less amount of time. I think it's a good move. We kind of talked about this, leading up to the actual season, leading up to summer camp, before the agreement was kind of come to. And this was an issue that was kind of tossed around. So I'm glad they ended up going to the seven innings. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I think it will be exciting to watch those short.
Yeah. It's a quirky season. Embrace it. And this season's extra inning rule will then take place in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Not the 10th. So the extra inning rule carries through even into these doubleheaders.
Definitely. All right. So we're through about the first week of baseball. It's been an interesting one. Has there been anything that has kind of stood out to you so far, Brooksy? Anything that has caught your eye? A team playing well, a player playing well, anything like that?
A few things. I think one, the anti-aging of Nelson Cruz, and overall, just off that, the Twins lineup is just absurd. But that piggies into another thing, and this was all of our aligns with what we were saying in the preseason about the Indians, is their like pitching staff. Like they always just have these arms that you never really realize are as good as they are until they're actually a lead dog. Like what Bieber's done, Justin Bieber, just getting Shane Bieber so far this year is completely absurd. Like having like 27 strikeouts in like 14 innings.
Yeah.
And he threw 8 innings of 3-hit ball last night.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 7. Who knows? But regardless, like their line just
great
been,
job organizationally.
I got his highlight playing right now.
so like the Twin staff, it's been great. I mean, I think with some things with hot starts or slow starts, is a question of like, is it sustainable? Like one thing that I'm not sure if it is, like the Rockies having the Rockies pitching staff having the best ERA and giving up the lowest runs in the league. That's something I'm not sure is going to carry through. But they're 4-1 as we speak today. But yeah, I would probably say biggest surprise just scanning through. I mean, so far the Padres have been off to a hot start and they've been doing well, but I would probably still stick with the Twins lineup is scary and Cleveland's pitching is good.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of playing off the Indians a little bit, and last year we saw the return of Carlos Carrasco after battling cancer and things like that. I think he only made like 1 or 2 appearances maybe towards the end of last year, but he comes out in his first start of this year. He throws 6 innings, only allows 5 hits, and strikes out 10 batters. I mean, that's a story right there. I mean, he's a guy that the Indians will need to go along with like Bieber and Clevenger and the rest of their staff. Like he's a guy that will be huge for them. And then, I mean, surprise-wise, when we did our predictions a couple weeks ago, you know, I think most me, you, and Dre. I can't remember if Dre did. I think you and I did though. You know, we picked the Reds to be at the top of the division, and they're currently at the bottom of the division, tied with the Pirates of all teams. So they're sitting
at dead last.
they're sitting at 2-4 right now. I mean, it's still early, and it's wild because they have a +4 run differential, and they're in last in that division.
Yeah, I think that will be one because over the opening week of the season, they lost 2 of 3 against the Tigers.
Yeah.
But Sonny Gray, Castillo, and Trevor Bauer just each threw gems. And I think like to a certain point at the beginning of the season, like when strangeness happens, and especially at the beginning of this season, like pitching will always beat hitting. And still have faith in the Reds. I think their bats will turn around, but I think the top of that rotation is just rock solid. So hopefully, I mean, maybe that +4 win differential will get up there, and they have the benefit of playing the Pirates. But I'm pretty sure so far in their 6 games, they've played the Cubs and the Tigers.
Okay.
So they're gonna have to start collecting some wins to get into this. But yeah.
The Braves. I mean, there's news came out earlier this week that Nick Markakis is returning to the Braves. So they're going to have another out. He originally had decided to sit out the season, but now he's coming back. And I'm kind of confused because I thought the rule was if you opt out, you're not allowed to come back. But now Nick Markakis is coming back for the Braves. So that's another opportunity they get.
That's what I thought. I thought when you opt out, like that's that decision, or at least you would have to go through a pretty stringent process of getting back in.
So I have no clue how that rule works now. I'm kind of confused. But Nick Markakis is back with the Braves. So, I mean, that's huge for them because they needed that outfielder depth. I mean, they have a couple outfielders out there, but they needed that extra guy, like a number 4, just to kind of slide in. He's got a big bat too. I mean, he's kind of older, but he's got a big bat. So I think that could be huge for them. You got the Dodgers sitting at 5-2. I mean, for looking at the standings right now in the NL West, it looks like that could be a dogfight. I mean, you got the Dodgers sitting at 5-2, the Rockies at 4-1, the Padres at 5-2. They're all hitting the crap out of the ball and have a +10 run differential. I mean, the Padres are at +18. The Dodgers are at +12. The Rockies Dodgers are at +20. Rockies are at +12, which is wild.
Yeah, and like especially when these teams start like going against each other, will be interesting.
Yeah.
Like what races will develop when end of July turns into end of August.
I didn't realize Padres have scored 44 runs, a league high 44 runs already.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. I hope those bats stay alive. I'm gonna look at this real quick.
Yeah, I think one thing that's crazy is
They've also
like some of the bats. I mean, obviously Bregman and Altuve, but like Christian Yelich having an ERA under like he's like 1/28, and Acuna also having an ERA well under 200.
Mhm.
Like those are names where you're like they have to regress back up to the mean because at this point it's like shocking.
I mean, do you think that just kind of coming into it? I mean, they only had, I think it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks in summer camp. Now coming into the regular season, do you think that ramp up time, they're still kind of getting into the swing of things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's always a little bit more difficult for hitters than pitchers.
Yeah.
I think that's why we've seen a lot of the deflated offensive numbers with these guys and maybe potentially some inflated pitching numbers. I think by the end of next month, things will probably start to get to where they should be.
Yeah, I agree. It's been an exciting first week of baseball, that's for sure. Anything else that has kind of stood out to you or anything like that over the first week? Anything else we need to talk about?
You know, I mean, I think keeping an eye on things will just be interesting to see, like, what are the teams that started off a little bit lower coming back? What are the teams that got off to hotter starts? I mean, I think the Cubs are looking pretty good. It helps when Kyle Hendricks throws like a complete game.
Right.
So like just seeing the teams that start poor or start well as they sort of come a little bit to the middle, what that playoff clump looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the Yankees are for real. Their offense is great, but I think overall it's been good to have baseball back. It's been nice, and I think the most exciting part is what we see in the beginning of the year every year where the first weekend of the season, you just have like aces against aces.
Yes.
That's been like some of the coolest stuff to tune into.
Mm-hmm.
But that will sort of get a little bit more sporadic throughout. But I think there's going to be like great games like seeing in the coming weeks, like DeGrom go against the Yankees lineup and all the stuff that we can get some action to. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited. We forgot to touch on, so the Blue Jays actually ended up in Buffalo. So they are playing out of the Buffalo Bison Stadium. Welcome to the Mafia, Blue Jays. Mafia. And they had their stud. He's one of the best prospects in the league. Nate Pearson start the other night. This kid is throwing gas, just straight gas as a starter. So he's going to be fun to watch. I just forgot about that real quickly. Wanted to throw it out there. But the Buffalo Blue Jays, welcome to the party, baby.
There it is.
But that is all the time we have for today, guys. So thanks for joining us again for another episode of Part of the Order. We'll be back next week. Actually, Brooksy, big news. So Thoughts from the Bench is switching over to Twitch. So Heart of the Order is following in the trend. So we'll be starting next week. We'll be doing live shows on Twitch at some point throughout the week. We haven't exactly. Heart of the Order is kind of strange. It's always been
give you a 15-minute warning.
Yeah, we'll try to give you a couple days warning. Sometimes it might be 15 minutes, like Brooksy said. But we're switching over to Twitch. We're gonna start doing live shows. Come interact with us, ask questions, things like that. But so usually we'll try to get a time decided on like every Monday or Tuesday. So guys have time to, plan around us. and come watch us.
Yeah, plan your lives around us, please.
Right. So it's going to be real interesting. We're excited. I know Two Beers Deep is starting on August 3rd on Twitch, so that should be fun to watch. Go check out Deke, Greg, Josh, and whoever else they bring on. Maybe Chipper will be on again. Chipper was on last week. He's a pretty funny guy. So it's gonna be fun. We're excited and we're happy. Hopefully you guys can come join us. But until then, thanks for having fun on Facebook. Our recorded videos are all on YouTube. Go check them out. Baseball has started, guys. And we'll sure to keep you updated as much as we can. See ya.
See you, Zuckerberg.